Welcome to Dr. Amber Thornton's Know and Grow podcast, where you're never alone in navigating life's biggest moments and toughest lessons. Join me, Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist, mother of two, as I explore motherhood, parenting, relationships, career, mental health, and the ongoing journey of personal evolution. No, it doesn't stop. These conversations will absolutely make you laugh, may make you cry, will get you to reflect, but more importantly, you'll grow and we'll get to grow together. So I'm glad you're here and I hope that you'll come back. Tune in weekly for informative, thought-provoking, inspiring conversations right here with me. Hey, welcome to another episode of Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast. I'm Dr. Amber here, clinical psychologist, and today's episode is actually going to be a session 2 of our astrology series. So for those of you who are new to this podcast, new to this YouTube channel, however you are listening or consuming this content right now, you probably should know that I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm going to fluff my hair real quick while I'm doing this. I'm a clinical psychologist who recently brought back her podcast, and also someone who is exploring and enjoying her new love and understanding of astrology and tarot and all those other things. So I'm still not sure what that means for me in terms of my clinical practice. I'm not yet sure if I want to integrate some of this stuff into my practice, but it sounds fun. The other day I had someone actually reach out to me looking for therapy services, and she said she had a therapist, but she really liked how I bring in astrology and tarot online. And I guess she stumbled upon one of the very few videos I post about astrology and tarot, and she's looking for some of that in her therapy journey. And so that got me thinking, oh my gosh, what could that look like if I start to integrate some of this in my clinical practice? I could so see it, y'all, because already with the clients that I have, I don't know if they know it, but I'm often thinking about like their sign and what their birth chart might be going on in there just based on what we're talking about. So more to come in terms of whether this interest or hobby of mine becomes integrated into my professional identity. But until then, we're just having some fun. And I just feel like it's important for me to have some episodes that are more fun and just reflective of like the things that I like to do outside of being a psychologist. So that's why we're doing our astrology episode today. So sit back, relax. Today we are exploring the second house. So I've got my notes here. As you can see, there's a lot of them. We're going to talk through, because by the end of this episode, I want you to have a better understanding of the second house of your birth chart. So a few reminders before we get into this episode. 1, if you have not yet listened to episode 110, which is our astrology session number 1, where I talk about the first house of the, oh my gosh, let me slow down. The first house of the birth chart, you maybe should go back and listen to that one. You could listen to this one today, but I then want you to make sure you go back and listen to the first house episode, which again is episode 110, because the whole goal of this series right now is to have you gain a better understanding of the birth chart and the houses. That's because, again, I kept getting this feedback when I was talking about astrology more online, where people are like, okay, I understand my sign, I know my rising, my moon, my sun sign, but I don't know anything about the houses. And so I hope that this helps you to get more comfortable with just starting somewhere, but then of course exploring more, because y'all, this is a very introductory level information that I'm presenting to you. Okay. So if you missed that one, go back to that. And then also, again, the point of this series is to help you have a better understanding of your birth chart. So if you don't even have your birth chart, if you don't even know what that is, you also should probably do that as well, because today you're going to need to know what sign is within your second house to really get a good, to get the most benefit of this episode. So I love the Pattern app. Not sponsored, but maybe one day. Let's just manifest that, okay? I love the pattern app, and in that, I put in all my birth details. I get my birth chart, and it's just so easy for me to read and understand the chart there. But there's a lot of other places online. You literally could just Google free birth chart, put your information in there, and then boom, you've got your birth chart. So I think everyone should just have a copy of that, especially if you're someone who wants to know and learn astrology more. You've got to understand and have your birth chart. I also have my kids' birth charts, y'all, and my husband's. So I know everything going on astrologically with them, which reminds me, there is this new app, again, not sponsored. One day I would love to work with them, but it's called Star Child. This is an astrology app for parents, y'all. So I just checked it out a few weeks ago. Basically, in the app, you can put in your information, but then you put in your children's information so you can get everybody's birth chart. And then from there, it gives you weekly forecast about what's going on astrologically and how that impacts you and your children specifically. The shit is dope. Amazing. I'm hooked. And I've told some of my astrology friends, and they're hooked too. So check that app out as well, because that's also another place that you can have access to your birth chart, but then also your kid's birth chart too. That's called Star Child. Granted, you also could make profiles for your kids in the pattern app. Either way, get your birth chart. All right, let's get into the second house. So today, first, let's talk about what is the second house. How should you be thinking about the second house? What information does the second house tell you? And so I wrote down a few definitions of ways that you should be thinking about the meaning found in the second house. So with the second house of your birth chart, it's all about what you value or what you think you have. What you value or what you think you have. Another way of looking at it is what you have and how secure you feel in your ability to keep what you have and also make it grow. What you have and how secure you feel in your ability to keep it and make it grow. A third way to think about this house, the second house, is often referred to as the house of values or the house of possessions. So again, thinking about what do I value and what are my possessions or what are my assets? That's another good way to think about the second house. And then also, fourth way to think about it, how you build your sense of security and worth in the material world. So how you build your sense of security and worth in the material world. So when I think of the second house, the key words that are already popping up to me: values, possessions, assets, security, worth. Okay. Again, values, possessions, assets, security, worth. So that house in your birth chart is going to tell you about all of that. So let's talk about some key themes that might pop up when it comes to your second house. And I've got 4 of them here. And again, they're pretty similar to what we just said. But again, I want you to really have a much deeper understanding of why the second house is meaningful and what meaning you should be receiving from it. So number 1, finances and income. You can look to your second house to get a feel for what may be going on or what might go on in your future with regard to finances and income. The second house sheds light on your approach to earning money and your spending habits and your overall financial comfort. Are you a saver or are you a spender? Do you prioritize financial security or do you take more calculated risk? This is such a good example. I'm actually going to talk about, as we go through this, I'm going to just talk about the differences between me and my husband. So in my second house, I have Taurus. Taurus is very earthy. Taurus is very, they like comfort and security. Okay. My husband in his second house, he has Aries. Aries likes risk. Aries is more comfortable with adventure and with putting themselves out there, more comfortable with uncertainty, more confident, right? So I, even just reading that first theme, I was just thinking about how different my husband and I are. I tend to be one that wants to save more. I tend to be one that's more conservative with regard to how we spend money. I tend to be one that maybe hoards it a little bit because I'm like, it just makes me feel comfortable to see it sitting in my bank account. Whereas he is the one who is okay with taking more risk. He's like, well, let's do this with our money. Let's invest our money here. Let's do this, right? Or he feels more confident with money. Whereas for me, I tend to have more of a scarcity mindset around it, but it's all rooted in that like seeing it and having it makes me feel comfortable versus him. He's more okay with we're going to take risk with it because with these risks we could potentially see it grow, right? So those are the differences. And again, you be thinking about which sign is in your second house because that can tell you a lot. And so as we get deeper into the episode, I'm going to go through each sign and what it'll likely say about how you approach your second house. Okay, theme number 2, possessions and values. Remember those words, possessions, values. So the second house also encompasses your relationship with the material things, what you own, what you value, how you value them, how they contribute to your sense of self-worth. Do you cherish sentimental items or do you prioritize experiences, right? This actually makes me think, me being a Taurus in my second house, Taurus again loves comfort, loves security. They also, I always say this, they're very Venusian because Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so Venus loves beautiful things. They love to be amongst beautiful things and in the midst of beautiful things. And so for me, because Taurus is in my second house, I am very sentimental about items. And I often have to be so mindful, like, okay, this we can let go of, or this we could take a picture of. We don't have to save it, right? I get very sentimental about items because, again, there's a lot of value and comfort and security in just having the things, right? Whereas my husband maybe doesn't have that same sentimental value about things. And it's more about, I don't know. Actually, I have to think about what it is for him, but we're different in that way. Key theme number 3, self-esteem and self-worth. This husband is, not this husband, I'm sorry. This house is deeply connected to your sense of value, not just regarding money and possessions, but also your talents, your skills, and your abilities. It reflects how you build your inner security and your confidence. So, again, your second house can tell you a lot about self esteem, self worth, where your sense of value comes, how you value your things, your talents, your skills. So, again, be paying attention as we get deeper into this episode, which sign is in your second house so you can know what your approach might be. And then lastly, talents and resources is another really big theme that comes from the second house. The second house explores the talents and resources you bring to the table. This can be your natural abilities, your network, or contacts, or anything that helps you build your financial and personal foundation. That word foundation is also key because when I think of the second house, I'm often thinking about the foundation. The foundation of security, the foundation of assets, just how is your foundation and how is it built or how do you perceive it? Again, so keywords, key themes, values, possessions, assets, foundation, security, worth. Those are the things you really, really get from your second house and how to understand it. All right, you all. So now let's get into talking a little bit about. Hold on, let me check my time. Okay, I'm good on time, y'all. Let's go through what I want to do. I want to go through each sign and I want to give you an idea of how your sign describes how you might be approaching the themes in your second house. But then also I want to give you something from this book here. And if you watched or listened to the first astrology session that I did in episode 110, you know that I referenced this book. Is called A Map to Your Soul, using the astrology of fire, earth, air, and water to live deeply and fully. I like this book because it's about the houses, but it's written by a psychologist. So it's very like psychological and astrology centered, like all integrated, which is kind of dope for me because it's, again, it just continues to give me an idea of like How might I integrate all this one day if I really, really want to? Okay. Um, so let's get into it. So again, you're gonna be missing out if you do not know what sign is in your second house. Okay. So if you have to pause this episode right here, do it so you can go get on one of those apps or get on one of those websites and just figure out what's my birth chart, where is my birth chart, and what is in my second house. Okay. And you're going to love it because let me just tell you, I'm a little addicted to looking at my birth chart. I basically look at it every day because, again, I follow the astrological forecast. I'm always paying attention to what's happening. And so then when you see your birth chart, you get to see what's affecting you at any given moment. Y'all, it gets deep. Today we're focusing on the second house. I won't go that deep today, but we will in later sessions, I promise. Okay. So I'm going to go through each sign. I'm going to start with the fire signs first, then the earth signs, then the air signs, and then saving the best for last, water signs. Shout out to the water signs. But actually, I love all the signs. Since I've deepened my understanding of astrology, I just see so much more of how we all are reflected by all of these elements and all these signs. Because again, when you look at your birth chart, you see like, oh my gosh, I'm so much more than just my sun sign. So like for me, my sun sign is Scorpio, but today we're talking about the second house, so I'm talking about Taurus, or like my rising sign actually is something that I've been resonating a lot more with lately, which is Aries. And so it's like you're so much more than your sun sign. And that's also why it's important to know your birth chart because you get a sense of what all you are made up of. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at my notes and in this book today to give you all information and insights on how you approach the themes in your second house based on the sign that is in your second house. So let's start with the fire signs. Aries. If you have Aries in your second house, your approach is probably pioneering and independent. You might be a go-getter in the financial world, taking risk and seeking quick returns. So again, I told you all, my husband has Aries in his second house. This very much describes him. Pioneering and independent. You might be a go-getter when it comes to the financial world, taking risk and seeking quick returns. Baby, which is very much opposite of me. Okay, very much. And we'll get to that when we get to Taurus, but that's Aries. And so for Aries, I want to read something in this book. She calls it an illumination. And what this is wisdom to help you create more resources and lasting value based on the sign in your house. So for Aries, she says, be bold and entrepreneurial while also being gracious and diplomatic. So that's just some wisdom for you, Aries in the second house, for how you can create more resources, more value, more leverage, what's in your second house by taking that approach. Okay, number 2, Leos. Again, we're doing all the fire signs first. If you have Leo in your second house, your approach to the themes in the second house are likely confident and generous. You might value luxurious possessions and you enjoy spending on things that make you feel successful. That feels very Leo. And especially when it's in the second house, again, that's the approach you're going to be taking to those second house themes. So for Leo, here's some wisdom for you. Use your excessive charm and creativity to get what you want while also being incredibly loving to those who help you along the way. So Leos, that's what you should do in order to create more. Sagittarius. If you have Sagittarius in your second house, optimistic and adaptable. You might be comfortable with fluctuations in income and prioritize experiences over material possessions. That feels very Sagittarius to me. Sagittarius, some wisdom for you in order to create more resources. Use your positive, free, loving spirit to make acquisition and security an adventure. Love it. And so the fun thing about this too, you all, as we go through each element, you will see the similarities. Like when I read about the Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, they're all very similar in that fire signs are just, again, confident, quick-witted, like bold, on their feet like that. That's what I love about fire signs. Like, just the confidence and the boldness is for me. That I love it. Okay, earth signs. So we're going to do Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Again, you're going to notice some similarities here as well. So Taurus in your second house, this is me. Practical and security oriented. You value stability and you might build wealth steadily through hard work and responsible saving. So, if you have Taurus in your second house, some wisdom for you in order to create more. Be as generous as you are grabby. Focus on cherishing each and every success with humility. This really resonates with me because essentially, when I read this, it says in order to create more resources and more assets, more possessions, um, my approach needs to be being generous, giving, right? And I see that in how I am building my career, even where my career is based off of giving a lot of myself, giving a lot of knowledge, giving a lot of content, creating a lot of content, writing books so that people can have information. Generosity is going to be the thing that helps me to create more assets and more possessions. And so, again, just how I interpreted that for myself, that's how I want you to be interpreting these for you. This part is really, what wisdom do I need to create more resources and more value, more possessions. So that was Taurus. Virgo in the second house. Discerning and analytical, you might be a meticulous budgeter and value practical possessions that serve a purpose. That is so Virgo. That is so Virgo. So Virgo. Okay, so Virgo, some wisdom for you. Use your natural analytic mindset and service orientation to find resources that have longevity and that are helpful to others. Wonderful. All right, Capricorn. If you have Capricorn in your second house, ambitious and disciplined, you might be a natural at delayed gratification, working hard to build a secure financial future. Very Capricorn. Very, very Capricorn. Oh my gosh. Capricorn, some wisdom for you. Exercise your exponential practicality to attract wealth and influence. Remember to use these assets to nurture yourself and others. Cool. So again, for earth signs, you see there's like that grit. It's like head down, getting to the work, very practical, reliable, dependable. Those are quality of earth signs. And so that's going to be your approach to second house themes if you are an earth sign. Air signs. Okay, air signs. So we're talking about Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Again, if this one is in your second house, Gemini in the second house. Resourceful and quick-witted, you might have a talent for multiple income streams and enjoy intellectual pursuits that bring value. So some wisdom for you, Gemini, in the second house. Use excellent communication skills to earn significant income and assist you in connecting with networks of folks who can lift your spirits and sense of meaning. That is so Gemini. Geminis are communicators. All air signs really are like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Libra, Libra, Libra in the second house, diplomatic and value oriented. You might prioritize financial partnerships and seek beauty and harmony in your possessions. Okay. So, Libra, some wisdom for you in order to gain more. Practice diplomacy in all practice diplomacy and your way with beauty to promote your abilities to attain wealth, both financially and socially. That feels very Libra as well. And then lastly, Aquarius of the air signs in the second house, innovative and independent. You might value unique experiences and possessions that reflect your individuality over traditional forms of wealth. Yep. Wisdom for you, Aquarius, in the second house. Activate community love as your greatest resource. Tap into the wellspring of diversity within organizations and friendships in your life and resources, and affection will become more available to you. What I love about the air signs is like there's this thing with regard to connection, networking, and community that really stands out to me. And in all of these, it just felt like there's something related to you're either connecting with people or you are prioritizing partnership or you're like in community, but also there's so much like intellectualism and clarity with air signs too that just really it really stands out. Okay, let's get into the water signs. Let me check my time. We're good on time. Water signs, you all. So of course I'm a water sun. I'm a Scorpio. So that's my sun sign, but it's not my second house, but I'm just water to my core. Water to my core is who I am. But so the water sign. So if you have Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces in your second house, again, these will all have a similar vibe as well. Cancer, second house, nurturing and sentimental. You might value possessions with emotional significance and build security through family and loved ones. Cancer is all about like caring, nurturance, loved ones. Like whenever I think of Cancer, I always think of family. So Cancer, a bit of wisdom for you. Let me flip the page. Okay, some Cancer wisdom. Nurture others and take care of resources in a manner that fuels your bank account. Engaging your emotional intelligence is key to creating the security you deserve. I think that was important for Cancer because I think sometimes what can happen for Cancer is that there's this like self-sacrificing that they can do sometimes just because they're so other oriented, family oriented, loved ones oriented, right? Which is a amazing quality for Cancer, but sometimes we have to remind Cancer that they also matter. And so I think that's why they said nurture others and take care of resources in a manner that fuels your bank account. Don't forget about you, Cancer, please. Okay, Scorpio. If you have Scorpio in your second house, resourceful and passionate. You might be intensely focused on building wealth and power, often thriving through strategic investments. Scorpio. One thing about us, we always gonna be resourceful and passionate and always trying to seek out some power. Ooh. Okay, if you have Scorpio in your second house, some wisdom for you to gain more. Utilize your investigative, surgical mindset and go behind the scenes to find out where you can make deep investments. Remember not to sting anyone along the way, including yourself, as you acquire your stash. Scorpios, if you know, you know, because you know I know. But do you know? If you know, you know, okay? Lastly, Pisces, if you have Pisces in your second house, compassionate and idealistic. You might have a more relaxed approach to finances, valuing experiences and connection over material possessions. So, some wisdom for you, Pisces, in the second house. Enlarge your capacity for big dreams and visions and leverage your charisma to land enormous sums of money. Ooh, I gotta read that again because that was a lot. Enlarge your capacity for big dreams and visions and leverage your charisma to land enormous sums of money. Damn, okay, Pisces. Make sure you do not get lost in dreams. Find others who can help you nail down details and practical applications. This is random, but this just came to me. Pisces are like dreamers and not visionaries necessarily. When I think of visionary, I think of Aquarius. But with Pisces, there's a lot of dreams and visions that are so powerful, but that sometimes can get lost because they stay in the dream state, right? And so for Pisces, I just envision like, what if there's someone with Pisces in the second house who has a lot of like big dreams and visions for a business idea, right? They should partner with someone who has an earth sign in the second house because the earth sign will be able to take that vision and that dream and make it more grounded. Yeah. Like make it more grounded, make it more realistic, actually put it together and make it happen. And then y'all, if you get either an air or a fire. Okay, this is what we need to do. Boom. Listen, okay. Whole business partnership. You need 4 people and you need everybody to have a different element, right? So like I just said, first start with the water sign who can have like the vision, the idea, all that. Like let's say Pisces. Pisces has the dream, has the vision. Get the earth sign. I think a Taurus or a Virgo or a Capricorn, any of them honestly, would be great with taking this vision and making it more grounded and practical. Then you get you an air sign. So a Gemini would be great for this, Aquarius too. To really network, like this would be the person who talks to the investors to like translate this idea to the other people who can get us the other money, because they're so good with like the communication piece of this. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be the one to like spread the news about our new business and get the connections and the money. And then you have a fire sign like a Aries, Leo, or the Sagittarius to be the face of the business, to be out there and bold and confident about it. Not necessarily talking to the people with the money, because that's going to be the air sign, but the fire sign is going to be the face of the business. Boom. Book closed, mic dropped. That's it. Because that right there was, and that is why I love astrology. And it's also, that's why I love learning how all of the elements work together. And so in this book, actually, in one of her closing paragraphs in this chapter about the second house, she really said that in order to really have like that abundance and the wealth, you know, all the things that the second house can promise, you do need a mix of all of these elements. And so she really encourages people to understand where you are in your second house and what your strengths are, but then also trying to pull in all these other key strengths and qualities of the other elements, because putting it all together, you see how magic can be happening. Magic can be made. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Like astrology is just something that is so fascinating to me, because I see how it all like relates and integrates and how it brings understanding and how it connects people. So I fully enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did too. I wanted to make one more comment. As we get deeper into our astrology series, right now we're keeping it light and we're really focusing on the houses and the signs. But I did want to make note that something that can influence how your houses are manifesting is the planets as well. So for instance, let's say you look at your birth chart and you see that maybe Taurus is in your second house, right? But then you also have a planet. You might have Jupiter there or Mars there or Venus there. Depending on what planet is in your house will also influence or determine how the key themes in the second house are manifested. So in this current series, we're not talking about planets just yet, because I feel like that's more something that I think that should be separate. Like, I feel like first, let's get a good foundational understanding of the houses. Let's get a good understanding of how the different signs or different elements affect the house. And then when we're done with this series with the houses, we will go to the planets, because I actually also really love talking about the planets and understanding the difference between those. And it'll give me some time to do some learning myself before I try to share it with you. Either way, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you loved this episode, let me know. Leave me a comment on YouTube. Shoot me a DM or leave a comment on one of the Instagram posts about it. Please rate the podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Rate the podcast, share it with other people so you let them know that you love it as well. And I hope you'll come back for the next episode. So we will talk soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast. I love that you're here. I love that we're learning together. We're growing together. We're navigating all these things together. We're really in this together. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a 5-star rating and review. That is so important because it helps this podcast grow. And it also gives me some feedback on how it's landing for you. Please share this podcast with someone that you love or someone that you know. And don't forget to connect with me on social media at Dr. Amber Thornton. I'll talk to you soon.